All right, YouTube. This Detroit's HPTV coming out of Detroit back with another video. And we got to talk about it. This morning, I seen a video of a guy I know, and he's an influencer. And he was saying how Trump is targeting minority black cities. And I listened to his commentary on it, and it made me make this video because we have to stop acting like we don't know that the Democratic Party flooded the black community with illegal immigrants. They embedded illegal immigrants into our community so that we would deal with the fallout. They want to tell you that the Trump administration is targeting black people and the black community, when in all actuality, he's targeting immigrants that came into this country illegally. A lot of them gang members, a lot of them move narcotics, a lot of them move trafficking of human beings. So the narrative that there's a brown and black coalition that the black community has with these illegal immigrants is a falsehood. It's a false narrative used by the Democratic Party to involve our communities in this immigration debate. So we got to stop ignoring that and stop feeding off into the race baiting and the race hustling, because we know for a fact that our community was already crime-ridden, poverty-ridden, and very unsafe. So what does it look like bringing thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants into this country and into our communities for us to deal with? So now we're dealing with the fallout. We're dealing with ICE and the protesters and the riots all in our community. And we have to ask ourselves, was this coincidental that they moved the immigrants into our communities? Our communities was the most congested. And then the sanctuary cities is going to automatically attract criminals, because once they're arrested, they're let back out. They made this a black community problem. And they're involving the black community to the extent that the fear-mongering and the race baiting is hiding the very fact that this was a setup to put them in our communities, knowing the trouble and tribulations and trials in our community. Why would they move that many illegals into our community? Why are they so adamant about promoting this racial divide? They screaming racism to the highest mountaintop. They screaming racism. They're not talking about the capitalism, the socialism, the communism, the Islamicism that's all running rampant and destroying the fiber of this country. Now, people can say that the conservatives are targeting minority communities, but they're targeting minority communities because that is where the Democrats placed the illegal immigrants. They placed them amongst us. A lot of them resemble us. They put us in harm's way and want to act as if they don't know how we got to this situation. And we have to stop feeding into the narrative, even as influencers, and tell the truth. We know they put those people that they didn't want in their communities in our communities. Now that it's a fight to remove them, they are deeply embedded within our community. Who created this problem for real? You know, you listen to a lot of these influencers, they talk and talk about the racial divide and racism, but that's become a hustle. It's monetized because they're not going to do anything. They're not too much going to say anything on the internet or on YouTube, but they will say just enough to get you in your feelings and get you in your emotions, so you will start figuring out that you're in the same boat with some people that came over to this country illegally. to be a replacement for you, a new Democratic voting bloc. So without further ado, I want you to look at this clip I'm reacting to and watch how he breaks down. His name is Brandon Lehman. Watch how he breaks down exactly what I came to the same conclusion of, and you should see too. This for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary. Pay attention to what he actually says.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker goes on CNN and calls for violence against ICE agents and praises the Chicago lady who tried to kill ICE agents by running them over with her car. Guys, this is the craziest thing I've seen a Democrat leader do yet, so make sure you watch till the end of the video because J.B. Pritzker also announces that the entire state of Illinois is in open rebellion against the federal government and reveals the reason the Democrats dropped the entire migrant problem on the black community is so when Republicans tried to deport them later, they could call racist because black people would be getting caught up in operations. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is a crazy one, but I'm going to give you what you clicked for. Here is J.B. Pritzker defending the lady who tried to kill a bunch of ICE agents.
DHS says that CBP officers shot and wounded a woman in Chicago yesterday after, they say, she allegedly rammed a law enforcement vehicle, and agents were boxed in by multiple cars. The spokesperson for DHS, Tricia McLaughlin, accused Chicago police of leaving the scene and refusing to assist agents in securing the area. What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are the same folks who killed a person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here, it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access.
And these are strange times when you see a governor accusing the federal government and ICE agents of actually taking someone's life unnecessarily. The politicians in this era are so vicious that they put out the worst case scenario for you to listen to, and then you get in your feelings and you think that these people are innocent victims, when in actuality they are standing up and opposing federal agents doing their job.
The facts, they are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but J.B. Pritzker started smiling when Jake Tapper was describing the lady trying to kill ICE agents. I'm going to run that part back and zoomed in so everybody who missed it can see it.
They say she allegedly rammed a law enforcement vehicle, and agents were boxed in by multiple cars.
So in the face of undeniable evidence, J.B. Pritzker tries to claim this story is merely MAGA propaganda. And the details that have already come out about this woman show that she's part of a group of armed Chicago civilians who had been planning to go shoot ICE agents. And instead of acknowledging the fact that another violent militant leftist and is actively engaging in deadly violence with ICE agents due to the Democrats' insightful and incendiary rhetoric, he immediately gets to talking about how bad ICE is. He doesn't even condemn what the lady did. He just disregards it as propaganda and goes back to talking about ICE in the same exact way that clearly prompted this woman to go out and try to kill them. As if to say, I condone this, I support this, I encourage more of this. And I obviously cut the clip because that was the end of his answer, but in the actual continuous CNN version, Jake Tapper just looks at him for a second like, did I really just hear that? I don't know how else that can be interpreted other than the state of Illinois is declaring it is not subject to the federal laws of the United States of America. But here's J.B. Pritzker exposing exactly why the Democrats dropped the entire migrant problem in the black community.
Where instead of going after the bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black and then checking their credentials. Are you a U.S. citizen? I don't know about you, but I don't carry around papers that say I'm a U.S. citizen. prison. So you can imagine people are getting detained, they're getting arrested, U.S. citizens. And they did this, of course, when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people that were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gang members, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place, and there were people that were held, elderly people and children zip-tied. Elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. They need to get out of Chicago if they're not going to focus on the worst of the worst, which is what the president said they were going to do. They need to get the heck out.
So much to unpack in that insane clip. Number one, he says, I don't know about you, but I don't keep my citizenship papers on me at all times. Well, it was you woke Democrats who decided to give illegals state IDs and driver's license specifically for that reason, so it's harder to tell who's here legally or not. Second, he says only a few gangbangers were arrested in a building of 130 people. I'm sorry, 37 Tren de Aragua gang members were arrested from that building. That means more than a quarter of the entire building was just Venezuelan gang members. Next, they tried to circulate pictures online of the aftermath of the raid, showing broken windows, trash and filth in the hallways, units filled with junk everywhere. But they failed to mention that was the exact condition the building was in before the ICE raids. The owner of that building has been sued by the city of Chicago 14 times since 2023 because they refused to make any repairs or maintain the building in any way because, wait for it, the entire building was taken over by Venezuelan gang members. Democrats forced black people to endure being terrorized and extorted by the worst criminals in the Western Hemisphere so they could be used as meat shields for their precious illegal immigrants and use them for optics to try to garner sympathy and force President Trump to stop enforcing federal immigration law. It's that simple because Democrats hate black people. They've always hated black people. It's never changed. The party of slavery, the party of KKK, the party of Jim Crow. And now they have black people enslaved through government welfare dependence. And now they're putting Tren de Aragua in their neighborhoods, giving them free government welfare and forcing black people to be their meat shields. Here's a black lady from Chicago who works right across the street from that very building talk about just how dangerous it
if managing your vacation rental has you tense.
is.
Chicago, you need to stop lying and saying, and people on this internet need to stop lying and saying that they're coming for black people. Yes, there was a building in a black community that was not majority black because it had been overran by illegal gang bangers. Let's be clear. So why everybody want to keep throwing that narrative around half of South Shore is fucking invaded by illegals. That's the truth. So don't get on here saying black people are being came for. They're coming because they're in our neighborhoods and our communities. That's why. So yes, they're going to go in buildings where black people live and sleep because they put them in buildings where black people live and sleep. South Shore, born and raised. I know what I'm talking about. Stop pushing that narrative because it's not correct. So for those who was questioning about who I am and where I'm at, this is Adam Clayton Powell. This is the building that everyone is in an uproar about. So as I said, South Shore, this is your community, your neighborhood, and this building was not majority black when the ICE came the other day.
So there you go. But Democrats will insist that that wasn't the case because they don't care about the reality on the ground for actual black people who live there. In fact, they're disgusted by them and find them inconvenient to their narrative. Now, one of the biggest hoaxes going around is during that raid, they zip-tied naked children and walked them outside and kept them on the street. And there is no evidence to verify that other than some random lady saying that's what she saw in an interview with the Chicago newspaper. Now, this is where common sense would kick in for normal people, but we know the Democrats don't possess that, so I'll break it down for them. You're telling me in 2025, where everybody has a cell phone, where every single minuscule individual ICE interaction is being recorded so it can be circulated online as proof of a fascist takeover. You're telling me when the residents of this neighborhood heard a Black Hawk helicopter outside at 3 in the morning, none of the neighbors from any of the other buildings would have come outside and started recording? If there were kids being zip tied, there would be 1,000 videos being played on every media outlet, going viral on every social media platform, but there isn't. Do I think that kids were brought outside and forced to wait with their parents? Well, yeah, of course, but would you rather them be inside of a building where they're hunting down 37 Tren de Aragua gang members and shootouts could potentially break out on any given floor, flying through walls and hitting people? But Democrats will believe any lie, no matter how absurd, no matter how much it goes against common sense, if it justifies their reason to be in open rebellion. But let's get back to J.B. Pritzker, who continues by telling Jake Tapper that federal law enforcement of any kind is not welcome in the city of Chicago.
So let's talk about that. The federal agents this week carrying out this massive nighttime raid on this apartment complex in Chicago. Reportedly, they used drones, helicopters, military-style vehicles. A Border Patrol officer told the New York Times that snipers rappelled down to the roof of the building during the raid from a helicopter. What more can you tell us about this raid?
Well, let me also mention that the Border Patrol shouldn't be there either. They're claiming that the shores of Lake Michigan are the border of the United States, and therefore they should be in Chicago. They belong on the borders, truly on the borders, and where there may be some mayhem that they need to deal with.
So first, he acknowledges that Border Patrol isn't always on the border. Sometimes they work in tandem with ICE if it's a bigger immigration enforcement effort, but then doesn't think that a building in Chicago that is over a quarter Tren de Aragua gang members reaches that level of significance. If those were the only 37 illegal gang members that were in his city, he should be happy about it. Some red states like Texas and Florida also have an issue with illegal immigration, but they don't see nearly the same level of criminal and terrorist illegal aliens as blue states because blue states adopt the sanctuary policies. So again, that thing called common sense should tell you if you're a notorious criminal, where are you going to harbor in the United States? Texas, where if you get caught doing something illegal, they will deport you back? Or Chicago, where if you get caught doing something illegal, they'll let you back on the street? And just a little side note I find interesting. Black people disproportionately live in the inner cities, and conveniently all of these inner cities are sanctuary cities. Doesn't that kind of feel like a coordinated institutional effort to displace black people, further destabilizing those communities with a horde of Central and South American violence, and then forcing these black people to be the first line of defense against deportations? If as a black person you're somehow more upset at Donald Trump than the Democrats who did this to you, I don't know what to say. You might be permanently stuck on the Democrat plantation. But
I'm going to stop there because he made the point that people won't talk about. They deliberately place these illegals in our communities and make us the front line of defense against ICE and Homeland Security and the federal government because they're in our communities. So pushing the narrative that the administration is coming for black Americans is a red herring. It's a trap. It's something to keep you emotionally attached to the Democratic Party and their agenda with the illegal immigrants. Even though you will be consistently working against your own best interests if you live in a black community and you live in one of these blue cities, they're sanctuary cities, you have been used almost as a hostage between the state or city officials against the federal government. So stop ignoring the fact that this was deliberate. They placed illegals in your community deliberately so that you would deal with the brunt of what's going on right now. And this is Detroit's HPTV, signing to you out of Detroit. As always, keep your head on a swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel. Peace, and as always, salute to all patriots.